After more than 2 weeks of searching for 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith, her mother, the mother's boyfriend, and 2 other suspects have been apprehended on charges of kidnapping and human trafficking. Now, this has since sparked outrage and fear amongst communities as speculation around alleged muthi killings began to spread. Last year, 2 Soweto boys were found killed and mutilated in suspected muthi killing. Let's talk more about these supposed muthi killings allegedly at the hands of traditional healers. And for that, we're joined by Chairperson of the African National Healers Association, Dr. Johannes Mphelo. Dr. Mphelo, good morning to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Not an easy discussion, 100%. I think we can all agree there. Let's start with your initial thoughts when you saw the Jocelyn story, and certainly how muthi killings then became the center of the discussion.
Thank you very much, and greetings to our audience. At first, when I heard of Jocelyn's story, I was so sad, and this has also created a negative spark into our association as the African National Healers Association, because we do not allow people to do such acts in our country, and it's also our issue. That is why we are involved in this issue now in order to sort the matter out together with the police.
Yeah, I can imagine that it certainly becomes a very negative discussion for traditional healers, but there unfortunately is a market where murderers are feeding into. I mean, let's talk about just how big of a problem, in your view, we're actually seeing here. Where we're seeing the killings of children motivated by muthi means there is a demand. What are we doing wrong?
Thanks, but I would like to tell the audience that we as the traditional healers, we are not the murderers. We do not mutilate children or other people for muthi purpose. Those guys who poses as traditional healers, that's the problem which we are currently facing in the world at large. People are posing as traditional healers and are mutilating children and other people for muthi purposes. And those guys, if you can search thoroughly, they are not registered. They are not legitimate. They are not original traditional healers. Because we as original traditional healers, we do offer workshops to our traditional healers and teach them on how to behave with the society, how to hold themselves with the society, how to behave, not to kill other people for muthi and blah, 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 so on and so on.
Is the issue, I mean, you're talking about educating traditional healers and speaking to them about laws and such. Is the issue, Dr. Mphelo, that perhaps that we simply have not regulated the sector of traditional leadership? I mean, if you enter any rural setting, for instance, and ask if there is a registration of traditional leaders, I doubt that that's a conversation communities have ever had, right? If a traditional leader or healer, rather, is registered anywhere. I mean, is it time for us to start regulating? And even then, how do we go about doing something like that?
Yeah, if I hear you very well, we do have different associations and we do have regulation and acts that are governing traditional healers associations and traditional healers as well. So when someone, after someone graduated for his or initiates, by the law, he or she has been forced to register with any of the registered association that she is now a traditional healer, then that particular person will be issued with a certificate and a license to operate. And if we find out that someone is unregistered, we as African National Healers Association, we make sure that that particular person, we report him to the police and should be charged accordingly.
Have you had cases like that happen before? I mean, talk to me about those instances and examples that you can share about, finding a traditional healer, and I say that with inverted commas, who subscribes to the practice of muthi killings and handing them over to police. Will you share with us those examples?
Yeah, even though some of the things we are not allowed to just put them in the public, yes, we do help the police, and we did help the police with so many cases involving fake traditional healers. Those are not traditional healers. Because ever since I've been in the African National Healers Association, and as my experience as a traditional healer, I've never heard of a registered traditional healer who has committed such offense. All those I've heard about are non-registered. And there are so many here in the...
Dr. Mphelo, and I think the discussion really isn't necessarily at this point about traditional healers that are registered or not. And that's why I went back to the point about how go to any rural community and ask if a traditional healer is registered. I don't think those are conversations that happen in, for instance, a rural community. People aren't asking that question. I'm asking you, as a registered association that oversees, or at least attempts to oversee the work of traditional healers, how many healers, and I say that again with inverted commas, have you handed over to police because you suspect or have found that they engage in muthi killings? Essentially what I'm trying to find out here is what oversight is there over the work that traditional healers do to protect communities?
We as the traditional healers, I always tell my people that traditional healer is like a priest, it's like a pastor, it's like a police officer. Traditional healer is someone who must uphold and maintain the law at all times. And our duties as traditional healers is to heal the nation, is to protect everyone or every citizen or everyone who is in our country. We don't have to murder those people or to mutilate them. It is against the law. So our main aim is to protect the society at large. That is why I always tell people that we are like police officers. We are like pastors. It's our duty to safeguard our people, to safeguard our country at large.
Let me ask you one final question. What is the mandate of your association?
Come again?
What is the mandate of your association, Dr. Mphelo?
The mandate of our association is to make sure that all traditional healers are registered and are going in line with the law. And another thing, we teach and train other traditional healers on how to operate with the society, with their patients, because our big mandate is to make sure that no one of the traditional healers engage him or herself in such acts of human mutilation and so on and so on. Yeah. That's our main mandate.
All right. It certainly is a difficult conversation, but thank you so much for speaking to us. We really do appreciate your time. That there is Dr. Johannes Mphelo, who is chairperson of the African National Healers Association, speaking to us around his views, particularly coming out of the Jocelyn Smith story, where we believe that the 6-year-old was sold for 20,000 rand allegedly. This is for the purpose of a muthi killing. And of course the question remains, what are we doing to deal with what seemingly is a demand for muthi killings in South Africa? You're more than welcome to send us an X on that discussion at Newzroom 405. Well, we're going to